Congress has approved 2 rounds of PPP loans, but many small businesses are still struggling to get the help they need. I decided to find out why. Here in New York City, the small businesses greet you by name with a wisecrack and an eye roll. Sparring over a bacon, egg, and cheese is part of the charm of New York. But during the pandemic, nearly 1/3 of these businesses may end up closing forever. And across the U.S., millions of small businesses are struggling, so the federal government launched something called PPP. It was supposed to give mom and pop shops forgivable loans, but, well, you know how the meme goes. While PPP worked for some, others felt, how do you say, differently.
It sucked.
It's just f***ed up.
Yeah, it was a shit show.
Wow, I haven't seen New Yorkers this peeved since, well, this morning. God, I love this city. To find out more, I sat down with Ashley Harrington of the Center for Responsible Lending. No, it's not an oxymoron. It really does exist.
This program, from the very beginning, has had a number of flaws. That's both in the structure, but also the implementation. So you had banks who were prioritizing their wealthier, well-connected clients because of the way the program was set up. It made more sense. They could get more money from serving huge businesses who had larger payrolls.
That's great, but the piece is largely about New Yorkers too. So do you mind just like adding to like everything you just said? So under the glassy-eyed gaze of Secretary Mnuchin, instead of helping out our mom and pop friends, $500 billion with a B dollars mostly went to larger businesses like TGI Fridays, PF Chang's, and other places that hosted sad work happy hours in the before times.
What ended up happening was all the bigger guys getting a part of their loan before any of our small mom and pop stores in Chinatown did.
Is right, because it gets worse.
That is part of the story, the big businesses who got huge checks. But for us, I think what this program does is it highlights the systemic inequities, the systemic racism that plague our entire system.
What kind of systemic racism? Well, first, let's look at the application.
It was only in English, while a lot of the business owners down here are Chinese, so they couldn't even read that.
PPP rules prevented business owners with a criminal history from receiving aid.
I was filling out the application for it, and a question popped up. You know, have you ever been convicted of a felony? You are at ConBody. It's a prison-style boot camp where we hire people coming out of the prison system to teach fitness classes. Anybody that's been convicted of any type of crime, you know, that's applying for a PPP loan is saying, I couldn't get it.
And if you were a new business, you barely got a dime. Bootstraps be damned.
I got like $300 total. We can buy a small bag of rice for $300 maybe.
If you were eligible, the banks made it a full-time job to even apply.
You have to put all of these documents together. Nobody gives you a clear answer. The bank's like, oh no, you don't qualify. My emotional language is in Spanish, so I just started like cursing in Spanish. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I bank with you. Okay, you should go to this other bank. Then we went to the other bank and they're like, oh no, you need to have an account with us. Es una mamada lo que está pasando. O sea, no mamen. It's disgusting. Unfortunately, we had to close our brick and mortar store. The store that I closed, I still owe many months of rent.
Perhaps the biggest issue, if you didn't have people on your payroll, you couldn't get the money. And no, they didn't count bodega cats as people. I asked. Ridiculous.
The vast majority of small business in this country are mom and pop shops. You know, they are really small businesses where the owner is the only full-time employee. And yet, the Trump administration literally made a rule that said for the first week of that first round, these businesses could not even apply for relief.
What? That means that 95% of Black-owned businesses and 91% of Latino-owned businesses, many of which are true family-owned operations, couldn't even apply.
It really was for the people who knew how to navigate the system in the first place. So it wasn't really designed for the true small businesses who really needed the help.
According to one study, this resulted in a 41% decline in Black-owned and 32% decline in Latino-owned active businesses, compared with only a 17% decline in white ones. Look, I'm no math whiz, but this seems to add up to systemic racism to me.
The problem with that is, Sam, you know, banks in this country, the financial market in this country has never been inclusive. It has always excluded people of color and communities of color.
Okay, I'm going to ask you something that my therapist asks me at least twice a week. How do we do better?
I think whenever these programs are implemented, who is at that table, who is determining how this is implemented and rolled out, absolutely matters. Small businesses are the lifeblood of their communities. They bring in billions of dollars every year, provide millions of jobs. If they had taken a moment and looked at how small business lending works and how small businesses look in this country, they could have rolled out a program that worked.
These businesses are our communities, and after giving so much, they now have something they'd like to ask for.
You hear all the time, small businesses are the backbone of economies, but you need to show that.
If you want to help the small businesses, go really into the community where the small businesses are.
Maybe with this new administration, things can happen.
And what's their message to the government if they don't start making changes to PPP?
You could go yourself.
Those people.
It's una que están.
Aw, thanks for watching. If you'd like to hear more from Full Frontal, hit subscribe and visit our page for more videos. Or if you'd like to be radicalized, leave YouTube on autoplay.